I've been getting a lot of emails from first-time home buyers that can't sell their new construction homes. And oftentimes they've bought these homes in the last 2 years or so, 2, maybe 3 years. And I want to talk about that in this video. I'm going to talk about if you're thinking about buying new construction, what I want you to think about first. And if you already bought new construction and you're trying to sell it, what I want you to do. So please stay tuned. There's one particular email that was going to cost a first-time homebuyer $10,000 to sell her house. So let's talk about it. I'm Shaheedah Hill, getting you over the hill to home ownership and helping you confidently buy your first home. So I brought out my whiteboard today because I want to make sure I remember everything to talk about. So one is before you buy. So your first time home buyer, you really want new construction. So there are so many incentives. New home inventory is the largest it's been since the pandemic. So you have over 9 months supply of new construction homes. There are a lot of homes that have already been built, they're completed, and the builder is waiting to sell them. And they're offering a lot of incentives. They're cutting prices. 37% of builders have cut their price. Price reductions, which is really something that most new construction builders don't want to do because that hurts their appraisal, but they're coming down on the price 5% or so. And then incentives, at least 66%, I believe that's the number, 66% of new construction builders are offering incentives. So you're going to find, those kinds of incentives, they're paying all your closing costs. They're offering appliances. And the biggest incentive is that they're offering you a lower interest rate. So I've seen as low as 1.99 with DR Horton for the first year, 2.99, I think, for the second year. And then it gets higher in that third year. So I've seen a little bit of everything, but I think I've not seen in the lower price point. So when I'm saying lower price points, probably under 600,000 or so, 400,000, 300,000. I have not seen a builder not offering incentives because this is the builder, especially interest rate incentives, because this is the price point that people need the most help with that monthly payment. So let me go over what I want you to do. Okay. So number one, you have to plan on being in that house for 5 to 7 years because the incentives that builders are offering you to buy the house, you're going to have to, if you're selling it very quickly, you're going to have to turn around and offer those same incentives or something better to get a buyer to buy your house. And that's the problem. So when you bought it, they offered you a low interest rate. They're offering you closing costs. They're offering most agents 3% or more in bonuses if they have a real estate agent. They're offering appliances, blinds. They're offering a lot of things. And so how can you compete with that? Because there are a lot of people who bought 2022, 2023. Now you want to sell, but they can go buy new construction themselves. So the buyers have a choice. Buy your resale or buy a new construction home with better incentives, slightly, maybe a little bit higher price, but pretty competitive in pricing and probably a lower payment overall if they get that interest rate incentive. So there's really no major incentive for them to buy your house. So you need to make sure that you're going to stay in that house long enough so, prices go up over time, typically, that price is going to go down. You're going to pay some of it off in equity. So if you have to sell that house, you're not going to sell it where you're underwater, where you have to come to closing with money. So an example I talked about earlier, the $10,000, by the time she paid real estate commissions, paid off her mortgage, offered the buyer closing costs, she would probably have to pay $10,000. That's what the agent estimated for her to get rid of that house. And it was becoming a burden because the payment changed over time. So we're going to talk about that too. So that time, I know things are going to happen in life, but don't go into the purchase thinking, well, I'll only stay here for 2 to 3 years. Don't do that. You need to have a long range mindset that you are going to stay in that home minimum 5 to 7 years. So that's number one. If you're thinking anything lower than that, don't buy a new construction home. Number two, the true cost of property taxes. You need to know the true cost of property taxes. Many times when you are getting estimates on your property taxes, they're estimating the previous year. And the previous year, there was no house there because the builder probably took several months to build it. So the builder was billed on property taxes with just the land. And it's much less expensive than when you actually have a house that the tax assessor is going to assess the value on. But that's the estimate that a lot of title companies and closing attorneys and builders, depending on, if you're using a preferred lender, that sort of thing, they're allowed to use that estimate. And a lot of them do. So you want to make sure that and they do it. I don't say they're doing it because so they're like tricking you into a lower payment. But a lot of you as first-time home buyers, you see that lower number and you're like, oh, that's a good number. I want that, right? But then that next year, when the taxes get assessed with the house on the property, then your payment, because most of you are escrowing your taxes, your insurance, and your principal and interest, your payment balloons. Sometimes it goes up $300, $400, and you weren't prepared for that. You need to know the true cost of property taxes. So if you're looking at a number and it seems really low, I want you to look at other new construction homes in that area that have been around for a couple of years and what are they paying in property taxes. Property taxes are public record, so you can look around and see what actual property tax numbers are to make sure that this is the accurate number as to what your monthly payment is going to be where taxes are concerned. This gets a lot of people where you'll see, oh, I thought my mortgage was going to be $2,000, and it might be that for the first year, but the second year is $2,500. You need to be knowledgeable about how that works. And I have several videos talking about that on the channel. So number three, schools and community. This is also very important because a lot of times you see a good deal. Somebody says, oh, get this low interest rate, this new construction home, give you all these incentives. You jump, you sign a contract and didn't realize you're in an F-rated school system and you have children, or maybe you're going to have children, or maybe you have a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old and they're just 2 or 3 years from school and this surprises you. Do not be surprised, because I have people got into new construction. Oh, now my child is about to start kindergarten. I want to move. You're not going to be able to do that. You can sell, but you want to not have to come out of pocket when you sell that house. So you need to research the schools, research the elementary, research the middle, research the high, because remember, you're going to stay there 5 to 7 years. So your 5-year-old could be, 12 by the time you leave. So you want to make sure that you're researching that. And community. I've had people call me, oh, they're building a liquor store behind the subdivision, and I wasn't aware of that ahead of time. Really research the community. If you see land around you or building around you, know what's coming. Usually you can call the county or the city and you can ask them, hey, what's being built on this road? What's coming here? A lot of times they'll have this stuff on their website. So do your research and don't be surprised, because as new construction communities are being built, there's often other things being built around that community to support the community. Usually they're good things, but you don't know. So you want to know exactly what's coming around you, and you want to be comfortable with those community changes. Because again, you're not buying for 2 to 3 years. You're buying to stay in this house 5 to 7 years. All right, next one, HOA rental restrictions. Okay. Now, you want to read the HOA documents. New construction, you can get them before you go under contract. Say that you want to review the documents. And one of the things I want you to look for is if there are HOA rental restrictions, because if you have to sell after 2 to 3 years and you can't sell at a profit, you want another option. You want the option to potentially rent out your property. But if they have rental restrictions or a rental cap saying that they won't rent more than 10% or 20% of a neighborhood, and if the new construction community has been there for like a year, 2 years, and they're still building, they may have already reached that cap, and then you can't sell, you can't rent, and you're going to be stuck. So understand going into the purchase how much, what are the rental restrictions? Hopefully there are none, but in a lot of new communities throughout the United States, they're putting in percentages of rental properties per neighborhood. All right, now let's talk about, this is phase 2. You've already bought the house and you're like, I need to get out of it, Shaheedah. How can I get out? This is what I would recommend. Number 1, Offer for the buyer to be able to assume your mortgage. If you have a government mortgage, FHA, VA, the buyer can assume your mortgage. So, for example, you got a DR Horton 4.99% interest rate, and you can, I'm trying to make it complicated, that buyer, you can advertise it, in a lot of cases can take over that loan and that interest rate. So say that you bought a house for $400,000 at 4.99%, but now you're selling it for $430,000. They can take over the remaining balance of that mortgage at that 4.99%, but they would have to come out of pocket or take another loan for that remaining balance. So the other 30,000, they're going to have to come up with. Some people do cash, some people do a smaller loan. So, but that's a more affordable option that you can offer them where they can assume your mortgage. So if you are trying to sell a new construction home that you bought in the last 2 to 3 years, see if your mortgage is assumable and start advertising that assumption and that interest rate. All right, now offer buyer agent compensation. So if the buyer has a real estate agent, you're not required to pay them anything or offer them anything. But guess who's offering them a lot right now? The builder. Builders are offering up to, I've seen $10,000 agent bonuses. I've seen $5,000 agent bonuses just for bringing a buyer to that subdivision. So you're going to have agents, well, that may not push resale homes, right? They're like, oh, there's so many more incentives and the interest rate is lower. Let's go to new construction because there are bonuses that they can get from that builder because the builder's trying to incentivize agents to bring their clients to their new subdivisions. So you need to offer buyer compensation and start. You can't advertise it on the MLS, but you can advertise it in emails. You can advertise it on social media. You can advertise it in other places. Number 3, evaluate your property versus new. All right. So I want you to get up and get out and go to the new construction properties. What are they offering versus your house? You have competition. Even if your subdivision is finished building, I'm sure there's some other new construction in the area. What are they offering? They may have new floor plans. They might be larger. They may be smaller. You want to know their pricing. Ideally, your real estate agent that lists your house should have this information, but you want to know what you're up against. You want to know what the competition looks like. So go out, look, and see how your home compares to what the new construction builders are offering. Because sometimes they're building smaller homes right now. So you may have had 2,500 square feet, and the new model that they have is 2,200 square feet. And so you can advertise that as a benefit of your home over the new construction. All right, so number 4, negotiate with your listing agent. So a lot of listing agents are going to allow you to negotiate. I do recommend that you list with an agent because they're going to give you the most exposure for your home. But they're going to market it well, hopefully. Always interview about 2 to 3 agents to make sure you're getting the best one. But you also want to, because a lot of the money that you're paying out of your equity, whatever equity you do have, is going to go to real estate commissions. You're going to be offering it to the buyer's agent, and then you're going to be paying your agent. So you want to negotiate with them. Hopefully they're allowing you to maybe get a little bit less of compensation or charge you a little bit less, especially if you're going to buy again and they're going to represent you. You can, keep that relationship with them, but you want to try to minimize how much you're paying your agent because you want to try to incentivize buyer agents to come show your property. So try to negotiate with them. And be fine. This is number 5. Be fine with breaking even. If you truly are selling your house in 2 to 3 years, it may be a family thing, or it may be that you're moving, or, there's a certain circumstance that has you leaving that property. Be fine with breaking even. Most people do not this is not pandemic times where you bought a house in 2019 and then it doubles in 2020, 2021. That this is not the market we're in right now. So be fine with breaking even. Not everybody makes money on their home sale, especially if they bought it at a time when builders were trying to incentivize people to purchase. So just make sure that you're reasonable about what the expectation should be. If you've only owned a home for 2 to 3 years, how much money you should be making, if anything. A lot of people don't make money in only 2 to 3 years because there are so many costs to selling your house, because you're probably going to have to offer closing costs, buyer agent compensation, and all of that comes out of the equity that you've made. All right. And then lastly, if you truly don't have to sell right now, stay. The longer you stay in a property, if you don't have to move, the more you're able to build equity. You get over some of these times when, it's a very shaky market right now. A lot of people are not comfortable with spending a lot of money. They're not sure how the economy is going to go. So if you can, just stay and wait it out. If you have any questions about buying new construction right now, or about selling your new construction home that you haven't owned for that long, please leave a comment below, and then watch my videos about refinancing. That's the next thing I want you to watch, so you understand when's the best time for you to refinance. Thank you.